This week on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast, I'm talking about how to spot and stop financial scams, ideally before they take your information, steal your money, ruin your credit, etc. Now, yesterday I talked about how AI is changing the way scammers operate, and that's probably the biggest development over the last few years. And unfortunately, it just gets increasingly realistic and more sophisticated. And so today I want to talk about a few other types of scamming trends to watch out for in 2025. I came across this top scams to watch out for in 2025 and how to protect yourself on Interbank, which is like, I don't even know this bank. It's like a financial company. They put out this like really detailed list and it's pretty good, I think. Anyways, I'll link to it in the show notes if you want to check it out. But I already talked about the AI imposter scams. There's a few others, though, that I think are really relevant, especially for older Americans and retirees, and some trends to watch out for. One of the trends is a digital contact. So it used to be phone scams, and that's still pretty common, but scams are increasingly switching over to texts and emails rather than phone calls. Again, they're claiming to be usually some authority figure. So it could be like someone from a financial institution, someone from the IRS, some sort of fake alert or invoice or tracking error. I talked yesterday about how I got a text message with a link to click on to pay an unpaid toll because I had a similar situation about a year ago where I went through a toll and didn't pay. I thought, oh, it is odd that they're coming after me now, but I don't want to not pay my toll that I owe. So these fake alerts, to protect against these, you just want to take a pause. That's the most important thing to do, and verify whether it's legit or not. Because what you can do is if you think that your bank is contacting you via email and asking for this, you can call your bank directly using a number. Don't use whatever number is provided in the text or the email. Go and independently verify the actual phone number, give them a call, see if it's legitimate. Another thing with the toll that I mentioned is it was so believable, but I was suspicious. So I asked my husband and he's like, no, that's like a new thing. Like lots of other people have got it. He Googled it, figured out that this toll scam, you have unpaid tolls, was a thing. He's like, just ignore it, delete it, report it as junk. And that's another thing about text messages that are also increasingly common. People will send accidental text messages as a way to get you to respond and start a conversation. Out of the blue, you'll get a text message from a number that you don't recognize, not in your phone, saying like, hey, sorry, like I'm running late, or hey, you want to get coffee next week? And they'll respond and be like, oh, wrong number, sorry. It's like, no, don't respond, because if you respond, that's how they hook you. They're trying to figure out if it's an actual number. You don't want them even knowing your phone number. That's why it's good if you get an unsolicited call or text message from a number you don't recognize, or an email from an email that you're not familiar with. A lot of people, they want to tell the scammer off, or if they're suspicious, they're like, don't bother me, don't contact me. It's like, no, don't pick up the phone. If you don't want them contacting you anymore, don't reply to the text message. You can delete it and report it as junk. You can block the phone number. There are ways without responding to those text messages, emails, phone calls, that you can block those people and never hear from them again. But you don't want to verify that you are a real person on the other end of that phone number or email address, because that can also leave you exposed. And you just want to be cautious in general when engaging, and I would say not engage. I never pick up my phone. I never answer a text message if it's not from a number that I don't recognize. And if it's someone you know or someone important, they'll leave you a message, and then, you can decide if you want to respond. But again, it's like, I don't know. It could be my husband calling me, leaving me a message. His number's going to be my phone. That's a terrible example. But like, people can impersonate my husband and pretend that, use AI to mimic his voice and scam me that way too. So it's like, I don't know, maybe I'll just crawl into a hole and never talk to anybody again. At least I won't be scammed. Phone related scams is another one. That's still a thing. Again, it's usually impersonating authority figures, or they use urgency to get you to act before you think. So you want to be very careful and watch for some of these telltale signs. Another one is online purchase scams. So you might go to a website, you get lured maybe by some like deep discount or some deal to a fake website with like rock bottom prices. And so what they do is you put in your credit card information, you buy this thing. It leads to these fraudulent charges because you're not buying anything. You're just giving them your credit card information and they're taking your sensitive details. So a way to protect yourself here is that you want to buy from reputable retailers. So if you're going online, I would be very cautious. There's so many websites now where they're like on Instagram, or I'm not saying don't buy from like a small business, but you want to be very careful if it's not like a well-known, large, reputable retailer, that there are other ways you can protect yourself. Like I do not want my credit card information on like 100 different sites that I've bought from. So if I buy from an online store, especially one that it's like a one-off, I'm not going to buy from this place again, most likely in many cases, then I'm not going to put in my credit card information. There are other options. You can use services like PayPal. And then that way the transaction goes through this like secure, encrypted third party rather than putting my credit card information on this site. So not all websites offer PayPal. So again, you just want to make sure that it's reputable before you engage in any sort of transaction online, because sometimes that website is not sending you some sweet deal on a new pair of shoes. They're just taking your credit card information and bye-bye. I talked about this earlier this week. Romance scams. This happens a lot with older, especially as you get fairly old. Maybe you don't have a spouse anymore. You're a widower, and the romance scam. So people will go to great lengths to develop relationships with people online. They'll use fake profiles on social media, dating apps. I mean, I've heard of situations where people will drag someone along for months and years. And again, using AI, they can make themselves appear a certain way, make themselves even sound like, if they're a 30-something in a foreign country, they can make themselves sound like a 80-year-old lady scamming an older man who misses his wife who died 5 years ago. It's very sad, but it happens a lot. And it happens a lot to older Americans too, who maybe are living alone, lonely, looking for companionship, relationship. They're just there to steal your money. It's very sad. So tomorrow, I'm going to talk more about ways you can protect yourself. What I've been focusing on so far this week is just being aware of the different types of scams and staying up to date in your knowledge of what's out there and what you need to watch out for. That's very important. But I'm going to switch gears tomorrow, and I'm going to focus the rest of this week on specific strategies that you can use in order to prevent any type of scams, even if you're not aware of the scam. Just if you practice these good habits, like taking a pause before replying, that's maybe the most important thing you can do, because it'll help you to kind of take a step back. They usually create urgency. They're manipulating you. They're scaring you into acting before thinking. So we want to think before we act, not the reverse. And taking a pause is a huge step in doing that. So what to know? What are sort of the common threads in all of these scams to be on guard for and being suspicious of, so that you can reduce the likelihood that you'll end up being a victim. So I'll talk in depth about that for the rest of this week. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Ashley Mitchell, and this is the Retirement Quick Tips Podcast.